Okay, so in the next probably 40 minutes or 45 minutes, right? So I would like to share with you some of my main research area. Okay, in the last probably 2 decades, my whole academic life. Okay, I was studying this topic, which is digital economy, and I would like to give you try to give you a systematic view about, what is the digital economy, and specifically, if you look at from Chinese perspective, what would be the logic behind the digital economy, and what's the difference between, the Chinese perspective and the global perspective. So, I would like to emphasize 3 topics. Okay, first is how the internet and digital economy, okay, really transform the Chinese market. Okay, and then what is unique? First I call unique about digital transformation of Chinese market. But then actually the third question is, it is not really unique. In the sense is, the logic I would like to present to you, okay, behind Chinese digital economy actually can be applied, okay, to other markets, specifically probably other emerging markets. Okay, so that's probably the main message I try to convey to you. Okay, so specifically I'm going to like to talk about what is really digital economy. So is digital economy is just a new buzzword, right? So what's the key difference between digital economy and information economy or network economy, or sometimes people call it internet economy? Okay, so what's really the difference between them? And then I would like to use several, okay, examples of my research. So to illustrate what's the logic, okay, behind Chinese so-called the digital economy in Chinese market. So the outsiders, they failed, okay, and they failed miserably. And the easy answer, okay, from particularly like Western press would be, okay, we cannot access Google, we cannot access Facebook here. That's the main reason, okay? So it seems like the Chinese internet or digital economy sector is a heavily protected market, okay? So that's kind of the easy answer for that, okay? But then you would think, okay, I would give you different examples. So why eBay failed to the local market competitors like Alibaba, and why probably one of the most successful companies nowadays like Amazon, okay? Amazon publicly announced it withdrew from Chinese e-commerce market in 2018. However, when Amazon, its AWS cloud business stayed in Chinese market, okay? And the cloud business, it's more regulated, right? Versus like you can think about e-commerce market is, less regulated, okay? Pure market player, you can think about it. And then of course, why Didi, the local competitors of Uber, okay, drove Uber out of market, Chinese market. And the most recent example would be this year, okay, Airbnb, right? Withdraw from Chinese markets. So all these examples. Okay, why? What happened? Right? So that's pretty much the message or the examples I would try to give you. So first, what is the digital economy? Okay, since 2016, when China hosted Hangzhou G20 summit, the digital economy becomes the most important topic for G20 summit. Okay. And of course, every year now, we can see, this year in Indonesia, the same thing, digital economy becomes a kind of consensus worldwide. Of course, now, due to COVID-19, everybody suddenly realized, okay, digital economy, digital transformation become pretty much the essential part of our life, right? So what is really the digital economy, right? As I mentioned, what's the key difference between digital economy and the information economy or internet business, right? So, in fact, I would like to give you a really macro view from the probably 1,000 years of histories of humankind, okay? So most of our human history, okay, we were in so-called agricultural economy, okay, in which labor and the land are two types of key production factors, okay? So that's easy to understand, right? So you either by working for the landowners, okay, and the so-called sell your labor, right? Or you own the land and buy labor. So about probably a couple hundred years ago, the human society started to enter the so-called industrial economy or industrial age, okay? So that actually is probably the first great transformation of our human society, okay, really. So the key difference between the agricultural economy and the industrial economy is, the capital and the technology become two, okay, new type of key production factors, okay. So I always try to, use kind of like one milestone year to illustrate the difference, okay. Quite often, the year I would like to use is the year 1776. Okay, so what happened in 1776, right? So a lot of very important things happened. Of course, the United States become independent, right? But actually, less well-known example would be in 1776, okay, a Scottish economist named Adam Smith, okay, published The Wealth of Nations, right? Very famous book. So actually that kind of signals, I can tell you, the signals, okay, the establishment of capitalism or market economy, right? So the book was already published. Actually, so Adam Smith in the Wealth of Nations, the book, okay, basically proposed this theory. Everybody knows the invisible hand market as, right, as a very efficient way to allocate resource. But actually, you can think about the complete theory of Adam Smith would be usually what economists call the Smithian economic growth model. Essentially, Adam Smith says is, the market integration and expansion led to the division of labor, which led to the accumulation of wealth and the growth of economy, okay? So it's kind of this is the logic. So essentially, before or in the last 200 to 300 years, okay, so what Adam Smith discovered is, because of the geography discovery, okay, so, and then the market expansion and across the Atlantic Oceans, okay, and as a result, okay, so the division of labor increases, okay, and then the economic growth, okay. So capital becomes the key production factor in addition to labor and land. And then pretty much the same times as Adam Smith published his Wealth of Nations, okay, another Scottish, okay, great man, great Scottish, okay, whose name is James Watt, right, invented, okay, so marketable steam engine, marketable, okay, so the James Watt is not the first one who invented the steam engine, we all know, right? But then James Watt basically make steam engine becomes, okay, marketable, okay, technology. So which certainly opens the door for the Industrial Revolution, right? And the technology becomes another key production factor, okay? But using the term of, okay, the digital economy nowadays, okay, you would say, why steam engine, okay, becomes, okay, so-called productivity engine or the growth machine at that time in UK, but not in, okay, the continental Europe. Okay, in fact, you know, the steam engine was invented earlier, like in Italy, in France, in continental Europe, okay, but only in the lab, okay. The steam engine, okay, did not become the market, so-called really the market power, okay. So why, of course, the Industrial Revolution occurred, you know, in UK, right? Now using the so-called internet, you know, the terms now, or digital economy terms, you can think about it now. So why artificial intelligence becomes such a, you know, widespread application in countries like China, developed countries, right? It seems like quite unintuitive, right? Then people would say, oh yeah, because Chinese market provide a great so-called context, okay, in Chinese called 场景, context for the technology applications, okay? But then you can think about it. Similarly, back then in UK, okay, so the UK provide a great context for steam engine, okay, basically to become the market force or productivity driver at that time, because, you know, in UK, you know, relative to capture labor become expensive, okay, right? And textile industry is booming, and because a lot of the cotton, okay, plant in the like North American, they ship back in UK, and with advanced textile industry in UK, right? So, but they need abundance of cheap labor to produce a lot of textile products, okay? So steam engine, because in UK, right, you have a very high reserve of cheap coal, and also, you know, the water resources very kind of plenty. So the steam engine can basically, right, burn coal and water, okay, produce steam to drive all the textile machines, right, to substitute the relatively expensive labor, right? So that's kind of thing, right? So steam engine would become such a popular technology in other markets at that time, like Netherlands or France, right? So even though they all have great science and technology at that. So, okay, so, but then, you know, only after, okay, in 1913, a genius entrepreneur, arguably, in my mind, the greatest entrepreneur, okay, in industrial age, Henry Ford, okay, invented, okay, the most efficient way to produce industrial product, of course, the automobile, right? So that's Henry Ford is not a greatest probably inventor like Thomas Edison, but Henry Ford is probably the greatest entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is the one who invented a creative way to allocate resources, right? So that's Henry Ford did, okay? So that's probably the story in the first probably two great chapters in our human society. Now we are entering the third chapter, okay? We are so probably privileged. We are so lucky, okay? So you know, we are kind of the, not only witnessing, but we are participating or even we are driving, okay, our human society to the third chapter of our, okay, basically history, which is digital economy, okay? Then you might ask me, okay, is it true? Are we really entering a new chapter, all right? Or is just a new session of a second chapter still, right? So my theory would be yes, we are, right? So because data, okay, becomes so-called the fifth new key production factor in addition to labor, land, capital, and technology, okay? So if I want to give you a milestone year, okay, between the industrial economy and digital economy, what year would it be? What year in your mind would be really the milestone? Okay, probably kind of, signals the opening of the digital economy, okay? So my answer would be 2007. What happened in the year of 2007? Right, it's not kind of too far away, right? You'll still remember. What happened in 2007, right? So in
financial crisis, maybe?
Financial crisis? The 2008, right? So that's before the 2000, the financial. So what happened in 2007? You forgot it easily?
Global downturn.
Uh-huh.
Global downturn.
Let me give you a hint. What happened? Apple. What happened about Apple? iPhone. Steve Jobs launched iPhone. Okay? So why iPhone is so unique? Actually, I would argue iPhone is the product which brought all of us to the digital age. Okay? Do you think that's okay? That makes sense? Let me tell you. Okay, so iPhone, okay, after iPhone was introduced, okay, pretty soon, okay, 1 or year later, at that time, the biggest competitor of iPhone, who was it? At that time, who was the biggest competitor of iPhone? You forgot it? Nokia, right? Nokia was driven out of market by iPhone, okay? But who can imagine at that time? Because Nokia was the king of the market. Right? Everybody would agree Nokia was the king. And Nokia is the perfect product for cell phone. Nobody can beat Nokia. In fact, when iPhone was launched, at that time the chairman of Nokia, in the board meeting say, okay, it's a crap. Okay, it's a piece of junk. Okay? So iPhone is a piece of junk because iPhone cannot, pass the job test in Nokia's factory. Okay, that's the chairman said. But that piece of junk, okay, drove Nokia out of market, okay, in just 2 years, right? So what happened? Because Nokia, even though was a great IT company, but Nokia was the great IT company in the industrial economy, okay? And iPhone, okay, is really probably the first product brought all of us into the digital economy. What happened? What's the key difference between them? So Nokia, remember, right? In order for Nokia to meet all of your preference, so Nokia launched several different product lines, probably a dozen different product lines, right? For every niche market, very sophisticated, highly customized. Everybody love it. But why everybody ditched Nokia in favor of iPhone in just a very short time? Why? So in contrast, okay, when Steve Jobs launched iPhone, Okay, everybody who bought iPhone have the exactly same iPhone. Exact same iPhone, right? But everybody's iPhone is different, right? Because everybody was downloading everybody's preferred apps, right? So in other words, Nokia, okay, it's a great IT company. Now you think about Nokia, it's also a digital economy because it's an IT company. No, actually it's not, right? At least at that time, Nokia was not. So Nokia essentially think, okay, we produce great hardware for consumers. But what happened for iPhone? In Steve Jobs' mind, okay, the software defines everything. So app is a software. Okay, even though everybody is using the exactly same iPhone from the hardware perspective, but everybody customize his or her own iPhone with everybody's preferred idiosyncratic apps. Okay, that's the key difference. But more importantly, now what happened is, in the industrial economy age, when Nokia or Ford, when they develop new product, they all follow the same path. The so-called sequential path is you basically do the R&D first, then you test the product, then you launch the product. Okay, it's a sequential process. But now what happened is for all the internet company, for all the app developers, okay, nobody is using these type of models. So if you ask all the internet companies, they're all using so-called A/B test model. Okay, they just launch the app. Okay, by analyzing users' downloading behavior data, by analyzing users' app usage data, even by analyzing users, okay, the bad review data, okay, they complain about apps, okay, then what happened is they just keep upgrading their apps, right? So what happened? So that's now you have a beta version, 1.0 version, 1.1 version, etc. Right? So what happens? Why? So essentially, when you are launching the product, you are doing the R&D, and you are doing the product test together, right? So you are, as a company, utilizing users' data, okay, to drive your product innovation, right? Right? So that's the pretty much, so data, in this sense, the data based on the social interaction among users and app developers and iPhone's iOS ecosystem. Okay? Then iPhone and all its app developers make innovations. So why do you think Apple can become the most valuable company in the world now, right? Almost $3 trillion stock market value, right? It's just because Apple is just a smartphone maker, right? Certainly not. The reason why Apple, okay, proudly, okay, has kind of almost $3 trillion market value, okay, is exactly because Apple, in my mind, is probably the biggest digital economy ecosystem in the world. The most valuable asset for Apple is its data, right? It's data. And that's exactly happened for Elon Musk's Tesla, right? So the Tesla that did the exactly same thing. So that's why every Tesla user, every night when they park their Tesla in their garage, recharging their Tesla, they are uploading all their driving behavior data, all their traffic data, road construction or road condition data, right, to Tesla's server, right? And then Tesla will upgrading its autopilot, driving system, right? So that's exactly happened for Tesla. Okay, so Tesla is not just a car company. Tesla is also a digital economy ecosystem, right? So let me just give you another example. For all of you who are using iPhone, you probably remember, okay, in last April, okay, Apple launched a new initiative called App Tracking Initiative, because Apple says, we so care about our users' privacy, okay? So we launched this new initiative, okay? So basically, all the apps you are using after that new initiative, they will pop out. And when you're going to try to use this app, they will remind you, okay, as an app, we are collecting your, okay, location and your user preference data, okay? They ask for your permission, right? Do you agree to, do you permit we collect it, right? So just this simple initiative, okay, has a huge consequences, okay, for a lot of market players, particularly for the advertising industry, okay? You probably remember after Apple launched this initiative, okay, Mark Zuckerberg was so angry, okay? Of course, now you can see if you read, okay, last year's or this year's actually, Meta or the Facebook's financial report. This new initiative by app, okay, pretty much made Meta lost how much money? 10 billion US dollar, okay, 10 billion advertising revenues, okay, because think about all the social medias, their main business is selling targeted advertising, right? But targeted advertising rely on users' data, right? So less than 40% of the users agree the app, okay, to collect their location data, okay? So that's why. So you can think about it. From this example, you can tell Apple is become the rule maker for the digital economy ecosystems, right? Rule maker becomes, okay? So now I think I use this example to illustrate what's really the key behind the digital economy. So data, okay? Data is the key. So that's why in 2010, so two of my courses and I wrote an article to basically we argue we are entering this new age. Okay, at that time we called phase transition, okay, of markets. The phase transition is a kind of physics term. Okay, it's a kind of the transition between like a solid state to liquid state, different states. Okay, so if you look at this column, this is Adam Smith's theory, right? So the traditional markets, so firms produce value, customers consume value. You have this kind of division of labor, right? But now what happened, if you look at Apple's example, in fact, users are creating value. We are creating value for iPhones, right? And iPhone and its app developers are consuming the value, right? So in other words, firms, customers, and all the stakeholders are co-creating the values together in the marketplace. And the role of markets is resource allocation and value exchange, right? But now it's more importantly is resource integration for value co-creation, okay? And then the traditional markets, the price is the main coordination mechanism. However, most of the apps in App Store are free, right? No price, there's no price. Okay, so that doesn't mean price is not important. Price is still important. But for those apps, they don't have price. What kind of coordination mechanism? Okay, we argue is data-driven social interactions among users and app developers and iOS ecosystem, right? So this is, we have this interaction, social interaction in the marketplace all the time. But now, because of the digital technology, our social interaction left so-called footprints. The footprints are data, right? So what happened is, by downloading the app, by using different functions of app, okay, the firms can know, okay, what kind of preferences consumers have, right? By analyzing those data, okay, the app developers and Apple can get important insights, right? So that's kind of the theory behind that, okay? So quickly, so if you look at, so now for you guys, right? So the data certainly becomes the key production factor, but data is like crude oil, right? It's useless if we are not trying to make good use of it. But who's gonna make good use of it? We argue, it's digital talent. So a couple of years ago, so we argue, we proposed this concept called digital talent, specifically to differentiate from so-called IT talent. Because when people think about, digital economy, people think about the software coders, in the Z Park outside of campus, right? Or the engineerings, right? But actually, all those IT engineering coders, geeks are important, right? Equally important are all of you, so-called, the professionals with complementary skills, okay? So who are they? Because we are entering this kind of value chain digital transformation age now. The whole value chain now is going through the digital transformation. So we categorize all the value chains into 6 categories. The first category called the digital strategic management, specifically the digital transformation leaders. Right? So like the countries, the state leaders, like in China, why you see our President Xi is so keen, okay, on digital economy. Okay, he's actually an expert on digital economy. He proposed, okay, like he's really the front runner and also certainly the digital transformation leader of digital China. Right? So, and for all the organizations, certainly, the number one leaders is really the digital transformation leaders. Then the deep analytics, right? The AI, business intelligence, data scientist. Then the product R&D and advanced manufacturing, digital operation, and digital marketing. Okay, so those six categories. So we work with LinkedIn. We all know LinkedIn. Probably most of you are on LinkedIn, right? So we worked with LinkedIn to analyze, okay, how many, okay, digital talents in China, and what is really the distribution of digital talents across China, okay? So we analyze 36 million LinkedIn users, okay, every year in the last 5 years. Okay, so those are the top 15 cities in China, okay? Certainly, not surprisingly, like Beijing, Shanghai, like Shenzhen, Hangzhou, like Guangzhou, they are the top 10. But then, Chengdu is number 6, okay? Wuhan number 9, Xi'an number 10, right? For those of you from coming from outside China, right? Whenever I talk about Chengdu, okay, the first thing pop out in your mind might be Chengdu, okay, Panda, right? Or hot pot. But probably nobody would believe Chengdu actually is in the top 10 digital talent cities in China. Okay, so Chengdu, the so-called traditional Midwestern, okay, less developed Chinese cities, okay, actually are one of the front runners in the digital economy battlefield. Okay, so I strongly encourage you to go there. Okay, certainly, yes.
Sorry, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't understand the distribution of this. Based on what do you categorize those cities? Based on user, the total number of users?
The total number of digital talents in our data, yes, based on the LinkedIn users, yes, yes, yeah. And then also, if you look at the industry distributions across different industries, in fact, more than half of the digital talents are from so-called traditional industries or non-ICT industries in China. Okay, so that tells you, okay, both from geographic and industry distribution perspective. Okay, you know, China is really in so-called in the deep digital transformation state. Okay, so that's kind of one message I want to share with you. Then, okay, in the last 3 years, okay, so we work with LinkedIn globally. We analyze 40 million LinkedIn, okay, users, so-called digital talents users, across 31 cities in all different parts of the world, okay? And if you go to our research center's website, okay, it's the Center for Internet Development and Governance at Tsinghua SEM, okay? We actually list all the data in the website. So I share with you some kind of main insights based on our reports. So if you look at these 31 cities, okay, and most of the Chinese cities actually in this side, essentially they are higher, okay, probably in basically most of the digital talents in Chinese cities are actually in so-called ICT industries. In contrast, most of the, let's say, Western countries, okay, North American and European cities, most of their digital talents are actually in the traditional so-called non-ICT industry. And then those are we list the 6 industries, okay, the top 10 cities in these 6 industries, okay, in the worldwide, okay. And we found out very interestingly, for instance, European cities, most of the top 10 cities are European cities in the corporate service sector, okay, B2B sectors. Then in the consumer goods and manufacturing sectors, and Chinese cities are pretty much dominant, okay? And then the software and the hardware. So basically China and North American are doing well, right? So and those probably the first message I try to give you. The second message I try to share with you is, so what is the logic behind Chinese market, the digital economy in Chinese market? The first, let me share with you this cover page of Economist magazine, right? So this is the cover page of the first issue of Economist magazine last year, okay? And the cover page story is the future of e-commerce is with Chinese characteristics, okay? So the story essentially is, you know, all the e-commerce players worldwide should, in their story, okay, their messages, should learn from Chinese players, okay? In fact, the Chinese e-commerce players are leading the industry trend, okay? So, and of course, they talk about, you know, how Amazon and Facebook are launching, you know, the live stream services, etc. Okay, so so now in probably a couple of years ago, you all probably heard about this term called C2C. Okay, it's copied to China model, right? C2C model. But now, and then several years ago, actually, I think it's from New York Times. Okay, they coined a new term called KFC. Okay, it's copied from China model. Okay, so it's in the internet sector. Okay, so like at that time they talk about Tencent WeChat. Okay, now you have like live stream, TikTok, etc. So this is the main message I want to share with you. So why you think about the e-commerce market in Chinese market is worthwhile to look at it. Okay, so in 2020, okay, I wrote a piece for United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to basically introduce what's the logic behind Chinese digital economy. So in that piece, actually, based on my all years of my own research, basically I say, why most of the Silicon Valley company come to China, okay, they were not very successful. Why? Because the market condition for Chinese market and also pretty much for all emerging market is quite different from Silicon Valley. Why? So the market environment for digital economy in emerging markets like China, okay, essentially we are going through the called simultaneous processes between digitalization and industrialization, and even urbanization and agricultural modernization. Okay? But if you think about in Silicon Valley or in back in the Western countries, okay, so digitalization, okay, arrived sequentially or after, the industrialization, urbanization, and agricultural modernization were finished or completed, right? So that's kind of so in emerging markets like China, okay, it's very complicated, okay. In some parts of the market, okay, we are in the tier 1 city. It seems like industrialization is almost completed. But then in most of other markets, okay, we are still in the process of industrialization. So what happened is, as a result, so in China or most of emerging markets, okay, so as an internet company or digital economy sector, you have to deal with all the market pain points from those industrialization processes. So one of the most important pain points is lack of physical infrastructure and trust. Okay, so I think the main successful factor behind China's digital economy is, I propose this. First is the forward-looking digital infrastructure development policies by Chinese government. Like, pretty much in all the rural villages in China, okay, we have access not only on 3G but 4G, right? That's why, like last year, I went to Guizhou province. Okay, the governor of the Guizhou province told me, okay, 99% of the village in Guizhou can access 4G. So that's why, in the COVID-19, okay, after COVID-19, even a very remote village in Guizhou, okay, the farmers, they can go on live stream. Okay, that's hard to believe even in a lot of developed countries. Okay, so this digital infrastructure policy successfully translate China's huge population and market into this massive data resources, right? Data resources. And then also the Chinese government adopt this inclusive and prudent regulation policy to encourage entrepreneurship. So that's why you see in China a lot of new entrepreneurs like Alibaba, right, this company, Alibaba or JD I will talk about. They really kind of experimented, and by experimentation to successfully explore, okay, the business models, digital business models for the Chinese market. Okay, I will talk about in a second. So let me use this quickly talk about this due to time limitation. Let me quickly talk about this case. this Taobao versus eBay case, right? So, in fact, in China, eBay was an early market player than local companies like Alibaba. So in 1999, EachNet, okay, Chinese online auction website was set up by 3 Chinese Harvard Business School MBA graduates. They basically learned eBay's case on the classroom and they copycat when they come back to China. Okay, so 3 years later, eBay and China by investing in EachNet. Okay, and at that time, EachNet was pretty much a monopoly. And then in 2003, eBay acquired the whole company, and the company became eBay EachNet. The same year, okay, purely out of defensive strategy, okay, Alibaba at that time is just a purely B2B company. You think about it, it's an online yellow page company, okay? So Alibaba, to defend its B2B market, set up Taobao, which is a C2C platform. Why? Because Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, believed in China, the difference or the boundary between B and C is quite blurry. So now eBay is entering the C2C market in China. So it will encroach the B2B market for Alibaba, right? So, but 3 years later, eBay was driven out of the market in China. Okay? So what happened? Okay, later on, Taobao and the B2C version of Tmall was set up. So what happened? What happened is, I would say, the most important thing for e-commerce in China is not about E, it's about commerce. So what is about commerce? Okay, the most important thing for commerce is what? It's trust. For sellers and buyers to make a deal, they need to have a trust, or in economics term called information asymmetry, has to be resolved, right? So, but what happened at that time, back 20 years ago in China, okay, all of you in China probably can remember at that time, okay, a lot of fake products in the local market, right? So not to mention now you set up a website, certainly, a lot of fake product, okay? So that's the lack of trust in China is most important thing. So what happened is Alibaba at that time proposed 3 killing applications to address the trust, to beat eBay, okay? The first is Alipay. Okay, what is Alipay? So Alipay actually is not just another type of payment, okay? But in fact, you think about it, eBay's PayPal is much bigger at that time. So Alibaba's Alipay actually is a escrow account, okay? What happened is to third-party escrow account. So what happened when, as a buyer, if you bought something from a seller, when you submitted a payment, the money will sit on the escrow account. Okay? Once you receive the product, you can check the product, whether the product is fake or authentic. Then you can ask Alipay to release the money if the product is authentic. So you can basically, by this way, the platform can help the sellers and buyers to resolve their settlement risk. And also the Ali11 instant message can help to kind of resolve the trust. So for all of you who are using Taobao, you can probably remember in the Taobao, the Ali11 message, there is a famous kind of a term called, Qing, right? In English is dear, right? Qing, or sweetie, right? Basically make you become kind of like build a trust among strangers, right? To chat with each other. But then you might ask, why eBay is not using this type of message service? Because eBay is using this commission-based business model. For any commission-based business model, they cannot allow buyers, okay, to talk to sellers directly. Otherwise, they will bypass, these kind of the platform, right? So basically, and Taobao, what happened is the business model is commission-free. So then you might ask, how Taobao make money? Essentially, Taobao is selling advertising, okay? They make money. Okay, so that's the key message I want to share with you. Look, let me quickly talk about another big players in Chinese market, e-commerce player, is JD. Actually, I worked with JD for a year. We analyzing 1 million JD's users, 10 years of their data. Okay, we build a model, and the insights is, JD, the business model like Amazon. Okay, JD is all the products sold at that time are owned by JD. Okay, but what happened is differently. JD launched a so-called own delivery service. Okay, so JD spent kind of $10 billion to launch its own delivery service. The main reason is try to kind of build trust. Okay, message is try to build a trust between the buyer and the sellers. Okay, so this is I don't have time to quickly talk about this. Let me talk about the last example, so then we can finish. Okay, the sharing economy. Okay, the sharing economy. But the sharing economy back in the Western world, like Uber, okay, the main model is like, okay, so we wrote this article to challenge the sharing economy in the developed market is mainly kind of crowdsourced supplier, right? But in China, actually, you see, a lot of examples are not crowdsourced. It's a heavy asset, okay, provided by the providers, like Geely, right? So it set up its own ride-sharing business model called Taobao, okay? So, and probably like the biggest competitor of Airbnb in China called Xiaozhu. Okay, actually I wrote this article with the co-founder of Xiaozhu, okay? So what happened is Airbnb, okay, all the apartments and houses are owned by, landlords. But in China, okay, actually there's a big trust problems. If you ask any of your Chinese friend, okay, very few, okay, they dare to rent an apartment for one night, okay, right? The first, the apartment was, really bad, right? It's not furnished well, right? And also, it's not safe, you will think, right? So that's kind of people have this kind of trust issues. So what happened is for Xiaozhu, different from Airbnb, okay? The Xiaozhu, the platform, they rent all the apartments, and then they furnish the apartments, and then they, install this smart lock and video camera, okay? So what happens is, as a guest, when you rent an apartment, okay, for 1 night, 2 nights, even though you kind of sacrifice some kind of privacy, but you feel safe, okay? Because, they will check, whether it's really you, okay? And also they monitor you together. So basically you feel safe. It will help you build trust, okay? So I think the main message for me to try to share with you tonight is, so for e-commerce market or for all the digital economy business model in Chinese market, and also a big emerging market, okay? For them, in order for them to become successful, they have to address a lot of the market pain points, okay, resulted from, industrialization. Okay, to use the analogy is, the market trust is just the air. It's like air, okay? So when Steve Jobs was born, when Jeff Bezos was born, it's there. Okay, they take it for granted. They never realized the air is so important. But once you enter Chinese market, it's like when you travel to Tibet, right? You don't have a lot of oxygen. You have to carry your oxygen tank, okay, essentially, right? So for the internet business here, you have to provide oxygen tank by selling your product. Or another example would be, the Silicon Valley companies are selling very cool racing car. But in China or in Southeast Asia or Latin America, big emerging markets, it's all muddy road. You cannot drive a racing car in the muddy road, right? So the local competitors say, okay, no problem. We are not selling racing car. We are just selling probably a motorcycle. But when you buy a motorcycle from us, we will build a solid road to your house. What's a solid road? Alipay, JD's own delivery service, WeChat payment, okay? All those infrastructure, okay? So in other words, all the digital economy providers in emerging markets, in order for them to sell applications, they have to provide underlying infrastructure together, right? So that's why Alibaba, JD, Tencent, okay, or Meituan in China, those internet business, they are very heavy asset earners. They are kind of infrastructure providers. So what happened is they are providing not only digital economy application, but also the infrastructure which, okay, were provided during the industrialization process back in the, okay, Western market. Okay, so that's a key difference here. So that's why you see a lot of Chinese digital economy players, they are also become very successful in Southeast Asia, and also like you see in Silicon Valley companies, they are not successful also, either in Southeast Asia or in also a lot of emerging markets. Okay, so that's probably the key message I want to kind of try to share with you. Okay, essentially, what I try to provide you is just another perspective of the digital economies, so you can have at least a whole picture, okay, about what's going on in probably one of the most important trends in our human life. It's digital economy, okay? So this is probably my main message for today's class, okay? Thank you.